Hi everybody, today is day 2 of Down by the Lake, and I thought I would just show you how far I've gotten and maybe talk about it as I go along, because if you're a seasoned quilter, you're going to know exactly what I'm doing. If you're not, and it's something that you're interested in, not a tutorial, but I'll just go through and tell you how I do it, so that I guess I'm hoping that maybe when this does come out as a pattern and someone buys it and they want to make it for themselves, they can refer back to these videos and follow along as I made it, if you have any questions. So, as you can see, I made my wreath. I still have to stitch this little piece together, but it's not, there we go. If you can see that, I stitched my wreath and made it a little bit bigger. I added a couple dots here. Let me take this away and show you. So I started out by just adding the yellow border like that. And what I did is I just cut strips. What I like to do, sometimes I will stack and do my sides first and then do a border along the top and bottom. I don't know why I really like this, but I love starting on the right hand side as I'm looking at it and doing a strip going 1, 2, 3, and then 4 across the top, because it just makes a nice border top, I think, with that longer strip across the top. Anyway, I got that done. I pressed all the seams open as I do each one. And you can see I use a generous 1/4 inch stitch because I've had a few quilts I've sewn in the past where after they were washed, I think I was just too close to the edge and it comes apart a little bit. So just to make sure that that doesn't happen, I do a very generous 1/4 inch. So after I sew each one on, I then press it open. So I stitched this one on, I pressed it open, I stitched on this yellow band and pressed it open. I did this one. Then I did the same thing, just for aesthetics and for balance. What I did is I just kind of lay out the ruler to see how wide. You know, I just lay out the fabric and then lay out the ruler and kind of hold it out and see, okay, if I make a 2.5 inch strip and I sew it up, it's going to end up to be about a 2-inch strip, and see if I like the way that looks. That's what I did here. Then when I got done, I trimmed it, and then I sewed on and did the same thing. I thought if I added an inch on to the next border, that would be a good amount. So I cut this one a little bit bigger, an inch bigger. And I really liked the way this blue pulled through to the water. I was kicking around some ideas that I'll show you and decided to go with this blue one. And what I did was the same thing. Sewed on 1, pressed it open, sewed on 2, pressed it open, 3, pressed open, 4, pressed open. This is what I am with right now. So before I go any further and it gets too big, I want to finish up this wreath of 1-inch hexies that I did. And what I will do then is get this sewn down. I don't mind that this shows. I think it's a little bit interesting with those corners showing. Instead of trying to make it so that this is all like underneath like that, which is what I could do, make sure that I don't know if you can see that, I could make sure that all that yellow was on the inside and that I only had blue on the outside. But I like the way that yellow peeks out on the corners. So what I'm going to do is I have this one last piece to stitch together. I thought maybe I would do that with you. I'm just loving this so much. Is that not? So can I back up? Can I back up? This drawing, I've talked about it before. When I get this totally finished, I will talk more about it. But my friend Rita Minnemeyer, she is on Instagram and Facebook. Not only is she a beautiful quilter, cross stitcher, she is also an artist. And again, I will tell the whole story at another time. We've alluded to it a little bit. in a couple videos back when I went and actually talked to Rita and interviewed her, and she showed us some of her stitching. But she drew this for me to be the cover of the children's story that I wrote about my kids, Hadley and Reed, my grandkids, and the Lake Ripley monster, which is Rupert. So this is Rita's drawing, and I did do this on fabric paper. When I talked in the introduction yesterday, I did talk about what I was going to do. This is a little bit heavier than I wanted to use. This is a piece of linen, a little bit heavier piece of linen, but it was just a scrap that I had. So I actually backed this fabric paper with it. It was so thin, I didn't want you to be able to see through it, and I wanted it to have a little bit more substance. Right now it's pretty stiff. It will soften up after I wash it. So I did that. Now I'm going to get to the wreath part. So I just kept going until I had a good amount. I laid out the hexes. I kind of figured out what kind of design I wanted to do and laid them out. Once I get this one stitched together, which I don't know, do you guys want me to do that with you? I do mine a little bit differently. Let me see if I have, I'm kind of kicking things around here. I thought I had a needle threaded. Oh, I do, it's right here. I kind of do my English paper piecing maybe a little bit different than some. There's so many different ways to do it, but I do use the glue to do mine. I didn't mean for this to be a tutorial on English paper piecing right now. There are so many ways to do it, but I do use the glue sticks, and I like to glue mine down. The way I glue mine down, it's really, really easy for me to get the papers out. And again, I did do an EPP sewing hexes in an earlier video that I think you can find underneath my playlist listed EPPs, and it will show you how well, I don't want to do this yet because I have to sew this together. Let me just show you how I sew this together, and then I might take out some of these papers and then we'll talk about that. And then I want to kind of talk about the rest of the design on this as I go forward, because I'm not sure what I want to do. So I'm not going to have you watch me do this whole thing, but I think it's interesting that I do this way. I should have my thimble on, which I don't, and I still have some ink left in my hands from yesterday. But sewing right sides together, matching up the corners. I have my needle is pretty fine. I've used finer needles, but I am so heavy-handed with my sewing, with my hand stitching, that I end up bending the needles. So I'll have to find out exactly what I use, but it's a fine but sturdy needle. Does that make sense? Sharp. So I'm going through the corners, but instead of doing a knot or coming up in this underneath the seam with a knot, I pull mine so that it has a little tail like that. And then I pull the tail, it's about the length of the hexie, and I just hold it into place. So I've got where I'm tugging this, but I'm holding that in place. Then I just start in my corner, and when I put the needle in, I go underneath the tail of that thread, and as I come up, I'll loop through, and that's my first knot. As I go through and stitch this, which I'm just catching the very edges, as I go through, I'm holding that little tail down, and I'm actually just stitching right over it. So by the time I get through, that whole thing, that whole tail will be underneath this whole part of the stitching. So there's no way that's going to come out. When I get to the end, I will do, I'm not going to do this right now all the way, but I'll end it, and then I'll come back through and I'll knot it amongst itself a couple times. Then I actually take a few more stitches down about a third of the way, and I'll loop it through again and then cut it off down here so I don't have any tails that are cut off on the ends that can peek out. especially with this one, since once it's laid out this way, you are going to see these open edges. It isn't like I'm going to be stitching the hexy edges together and any loose threads would be underneath here. These are all going to be open. So once I get that done, let me get rid of this needle so I don't poke anybody. Once I get that done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start taking these papers out, and I'll show you real quick how easy it is for me. When I fold it, these two are coming down towards each other. And then I fold counterclockwise, I think. So if I undo that and this, the two end pieces, and you can use a needle. I have, or like an awl, I have this longer needle that I've showed you guys before. Look how bent it's getting. I think it was an upholstery needle at one time. Then you can just come underneath and loosen these edges and actually just pick that paper out, and it will come out in a counterclockwise manner, or clockwise manner, whichever way I'm going here. So the tough part, since I'm not going to be sewing these together, is getting this folded back up and back into shape. What I will do before I take all of these out, with the paper in, I am going to iron these really well with starch, so that when I take the papers out, they are going to keep their shape, and it's not going to be such a struggle to get this ironed back down into a hexagon shape. Then I'm going to center it out. I'll use my little teeny applique pens. I have a whole bunch of them here. And this is what they look like. This is how big they are. Whoop, they're so little I can't even hang on to it. These little teeny applique pens. And I will go through and I'll make sure that this is down exactly where it needs to be. I will pin kind of on the edges here so that it's down nice and flat. There is a washable glue that I could also put on the back of here and just dot on. I might do that. I do have some. I haven't decided yet. It just depends. I don't mind doing it either way. It just depends on what I'm feeling like. Then I will get this stitched down. And then my plan is, this is what I kind of wanted to get your opinions on. Move some of this out of the way. So what I decided was that I was going to do, I was going to kind of do an asymmetrical design and have, I was thinking about doing the lake fabric over here in a strip, and then in the black and the orange, doing flying geese all the way up this side. Now, I know you guys, some of you might have different opinion. I do like the orange. I think it looks good with this. It's brighter than what I like. It does go with this, but this is brighter than I like. I understand that it's a children's quilt and it's going to go with my children's story, but I just still am not crazy about this fabric. I don't know why. It's cute, but maybe that's my problem, is that it's too cute for me. It's just not my style. So if I'm going to do this, I really want to love it. And I would love it if it was somebody else's. I really would. But it's not, I just think it's not for me. So I think I'm leaning against using this. I thought maybe I would just use it for the backing, but I don't. I think what I would say is I don't like things real literal. Like, it's down by the lake and it's the story about the kids on the lake, but do I have to have lake fabric? Or can I just have the essence of like the blue with the lake and the sky? Are you following me? So that's kind of what I'm thinking. I would like to get your opinions. I did get my opinion, an opinion from my friend Sarah, lovely Sarah Stonehouse, my lovely British friend, and she agreed that maybe this wasn't the right fabric for this. So let me know if you agree or if you don't. If I know, again, I know it will work. I don't know. You guys tell me what you think. So if I take this out of the mix, what I was thinking about doing is still doing the flying geese up both sides with the black and orange. Now my second thought was, do I go with a more muted orange, or am I going to use this bright? They're always telling me at work to use happier colors when I quilt. This would be a happier color, but I really like dusty, more worn. I don't know, I'm thinking. So anyway, this is on the back burner as well. I'm going to look and see if I have a different orange. I do like the black. And then across the bottom, so I'm going to have flying geese on this side and this side. And then across the bottom, I'm going to do the black stripe with the flower hexies that match the blue. So I have 3 of those finished. So it will look something like that. I'm thinking about doing a thin border of the orange and maybe a thin border of the orange on top, and then doing just the stripe up here, and then doing this stripe border with yo-yos instead of hexies. So as I'm incorporating everything, I'm trying to add the things that I love to hand stitch, which are the 1-inch hexies and of course yo-yos. So that's where I'm going with this. So I'd like to know what you guys think. As I go along, these will just be short snippet little things. If you have any questions, you can pop them in there. Let me know what you think. Unless you don't like it and I've already sewn it together, then, I mean, you can still tell me, but I'm not going to change it at this point. This is called a medallion quilt. Medallion quilts always start with a center, some kind of larger center motif, and then it just builds each border on out from there. So that's what I'm working on here. They seem to be my favorite for me to make and design because they're easy and fun, is what I would say. So I wish you guys could see this and feel. This is so soft, and I'm just excited to get it done. So what are you thinking about this so far? I think I like it. We know I'm on the fence about the orange, so I'll just have to see. I don't have a whole lot of other fabrics except for the black. If I'm going to keep going on this, I don't know that I want to add too many other colors. I just don't know. I'm getting a feel for it. But that's why I wanted to do this and have you guys come along with me, because it's like you're my quilt group. Even though you're not here with me right now to go over it, I want you to leave me messages and tell me what you think. Okay? I'm also don't have any idea how big this is going to end up to be. I thought it was going to be a lap size, which would be good for kids, but I think it depends on how much I like the fabrics that I end up using. I love this one. This one's going to be coming out into the outer edges at some point, or I even thought about using it for the binding. Although on the binding, as a binding, I mean, it would make a statement. It just wouldn't be as big of a statement. So here we go. This is day 2 of Down by the Lake, and just stitching away. I hope you guys are doing as well, having fun stitching on whatever it is that you like to stitch on, and just keep following along and let me know what you think. Okay? Have a good day. Bye.